So this week in the UEFA Champions League and the UEFA Europa League, we have seen some brilliant games and some less than great refereeing, I would have to say, particularly if you are of a Real Madrid and a Barcelona persuasion. And in particular, I was watching Bayern Munich Real Madrid, and it was a brilliant game, obviously, but Camavinga got sent off for time wasting. And it is one of those decisions where if it goes for your team, it's great. If it goes against your team, you are furious. And the abiding image for me of that night is Danny Carvajal from the sidelines, kind of obviously saying in Spanish to the ref, it's your fault. It's your fault. You've caused us to exit the Champions League. And, forget that Real Madrid lost the first leg at home 2-1. That's got nothing to do with it. And controversy is nothing new. But I think it's particularly poignant that Nottingham Forest have made the Europa League semi-final, because I was immediately taken back, and this is why I love football history. I was immediately taken back with all the noise surrounding Barcelona and Real Madrid. And it's not just in these two games. We've seen it with other teams feel cheated because the referees made a decision. The last time the Nottingham Forest reached a major European semi-final. Now, that was in the 1983-84 UEFA Cup, and they'd reached the semi-final to play Anderlecht. So Nottingham Forest had been European champions in 79 and 80, but they were in a bit of a decline. Peter Taylor had left, and a lot of the team that had won the European Cup those 2 years in a row had gone, and Clough was obviously trying to build a new team. And they faced Anderlecht in the semi-final. So in the first leg, they beat them 2-0 at the City Ground. And they went to Anderlecht. Now, if you watch the highlights, even the brief highlights on YouTube, even though nothing was known at the time, when you see the penalty decision given for Anderlecht, it's incredible. Anderlecht, essentially, they'd already scored in the first half, and then they were given a penalty in the second half. And honestly, the guy has just literally fallen. There is a Forest defender, I think it's Kenny Swain, next to him, but literally the guy has just fallen over. And the ref's given straight, there's no hesitation, he's given a penalty. And Anderlecht have gone on to score a third, and Nottingham Forest then had a very good goal disallowed, which would have taken them through on away goals. Now, the reason this is interesting is because in 1997, it came out that Anderlecht had bribed the referee for that second leg, and this was all documented. And essentially, obviously not direct through Anderlecht. Obviously, it was through a number of criminal organisations, but it was traced back to Constant van den Sok, who was the owner of Anderlecht. So they bribed the referee. And although it came out in 1997, it came out a number of years later that UEFA had known about this since 1992. So the referee was bribed, and Nottingham Forest were denied a place in the 1984 UEFA Cup final. And Anderlecht went on to play Tottenham, and Tottenham won on penalties. So I just thought it was incredibly interesting this week that I'm not, with the referees making decisions, and they are human at the end of the day. I'm not saying they got every decision right, but it just was interesting to then see Nottingham Forest get through to a semi-final. And you think, wow, the last time they were in a semi-final, they really were properly screwed by a ref who was bought. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, can't still happen these days, but if you think in 1984, you're just buying the referee, you these days have to buy the referee and the VAR as well. And so there's a lot more people. So let's just hope all of that bribery stuff has disappeared, at least on the pitch. Because obviously 1984 semi-final wasn't the only time, footballers and referees have been bribed. But as I say, so this is why football history to me is so interesting, because even though you know, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and Nottingham Forest beating Porto is today, there is always some sort of link to history. And I just thought I wanted to, my video today is a bit of a shorter one, just to show that that's why football history is really important to understand. Because one, it is the last time Nottingham Forest reached a semi-finals. They haven't done this since that 83-84 season. And two, because of the way they got eliminated by Anderlecht in the second leg with a referee that was bribed, it puts Real Madrid and Barcelona's complaints into a bit more of a opinion rather than pure fact that, you know, that the referees, you know, weren't bribed. They've made mistakes or decisions that, you know, Real Madrid and Barcelona weren't happy with. So I'll go back to the Camavinga one. The referee is going to be looking potentially as you get towards the end of a game of players who are time wasting. And to be fair, Camavinga, while it wasn't the worst sending off, you know, ever, I can see why he got the second yellow card. If it was against my team, yes, of course I'd be annoyed. You know, but we even saw on Monday night between Man United and Leeds a hair pull. I mean, how that is violent conduct, I'm not quite sure. But the standing of refereeing comes under massive scrutiny because of the amount of money and in the game now. But as I say, this is why I love football history, because, as I say, we all think things are brand new, nothing like this has happened before. But as I say, Nottingham Forest fans will remember, even if they, like myself, you know, I wouldn't have even remembered the game. But, you know, Nottingham Forest fans will remember, even if they weren't alive, the last time they reached a semi-final and how badly they were treated. So this is why I love football history. So it's always worth having a look at stuff like this. And if you haven't already, just go and have a look at the highlights on YouTube of that second leg. I'm not saying Anderlecht, you know, struggled to create any chances. They played well in the game. But you just watch the penalty decision. It is horrendous. I mean, we think some of the penalties given these days are bad. That was horrendous. And as I say, look at the referee. There's not even a moment's hesitation. He's pointing to the spot. And if you listen to the English commentary on it, and this was commentary from the time when they were doing the summing up of the game, even they say this penalty is like, how was this given? So yeah, but that's a little bit of modern day Champions League and Europa League, and obviously relating it back to the UEFA Cup from 1983-84.